All right, welcome back to H2H. Tasos, we got week number 3 here in the NBA, H2H NBA edition. Guys, if you're not aware, this show we normally do in the NFL season. Tasos and I battle it out each and every week. Whoever comes out units-wise comes out with the win for that week. We've done it for 2 weeks now in the NBA. I took week number 1, and then Tasos, you took last week there. You have a little bit of an advantage this week, too. We were just talking about before we started to record, right? I quite literally just rolled off of a plane after a 4-day, I guess what you could consider bender in Vegas. So, yeah, you're kind of getting me on the ropes here, even coming off a win. But congrats on your win last week. And, yeah, how we doing?
I'm doing great. I can see the bags in your eye,
Yeah,
in your
is
eyes,
that-
and you can hear it in your voice. It's like this guy looks like he just got back from a trip to Vegas.
Like if there's multiple choice, you can go process of elimination and probably arrive at an educated guess as to that. But hey, we're battling here. We're doing it for the people, and you know what? Sometimes in these like moments of desperation, or I'm seeing double on the screen, might be where I throw out some absolute banger. So who knows, right? Like it could definitely happen.
I feel like we're gonna see a healthy amount of Alti Ev in this video.
Yeah, someone 100+ points or something like that. But yeah, if you guys don't know how the show works, it is H2H. We give our plays for the day, but with H2H, we have to follow a different little bit of a format here. We go through in a draft format. We also spin a wheel that decides which lane and category our picks go into. We have a little bit of fun there. And again, it's just head-to-head each and every week. Whoever comes out on top gets the win for that week. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, guys. Hit that like button. Tasos ready to jump into round number 1 here.
I'm ready, feeling good. Like I said, coming off a win, got positive momentum. I got Sleepy Ev next to me here.
Oh yes,
maybe I don't want to suggest, but maybe hungover Ev, perhaps. I don't mean, listen, Vegas, anything can happen. So,
Yeah, I mean it's tail end of a bender Ev. I think that's the way to put it. Which no one ever wants to be in that situation.
I saw some of those Instagram stories. I don't think that was apple juice in those cups.
You don't think so?
No, I'm going to take an educated guess there and say that wasn't apple juice in those cups.
No. Definitely not. But some might say they were double apple juices, though.
Oh, okay.
You got it. Yeah. But all right, let's go ahead and jump into this. You guys will see a wheel on your screen. First, it'll be our names. So Ev, Tasos, there's 3 slices of each. This is just to set the order. Whoever gets this goes first, and then it's snake draft from there. Yeah, I'm assuming you want to take the reins here, right?
I want you to take the reins. I actually want you to go first.
Uh-oh.
I want to see what you're going to cook up here if you go first.
I mean, this thing, I could be hallucinating pretty soon. This could go off the rails quick. All right, let's go ahead and spin it.
I was going to pull out teams that don't even exist anymore. He's like, all right, I want the Minneapolis Lakers -5 against the Washington Bullets.
You got your wish. I don't mind it. Or this is all a facade, and you know what I mean? I could be be hustling you.
Sandbagging me.
I wish. All right, here we go. Let's jump in. Now you're going to see the wheel that matters here, guys. This is the category wheel. So we have money line, spread, total, player prop, points, rebounds, assists, combo, and under. Whichever this one lands on, that is the lane that we have to roll with here. Stick around to the end of the show as well. We have the fade me round, which is really, really cool, guys. You don't really have to follow this, whoever that lands on. End up making a play from anywhere on the board. The other person has to fade it. Pretty damn unique. But I got a couple player props here, and it's a really small slate toss. So we didn't talk about that. So it's going to be interesting when we get to some of these totals and spreads or money lines. So, yeah, I got 2 player props as of right now that I really like. So I kind of feel like I'm covered, but we'll see in a couple rounds, maybe not so much. But you like anything specifically today?
I was just saying the same thing. Spreads, money line, I have like 1, maybe 2 plays. The thing is, you got 2 spreads that are like 15.5 or higher, and then you got 2 that are pretty close. So, player props are pretty good too, but also player props are kind of tricky in these spots because you have 2 games where it's like blowouts are projected. So do you go with the starters? Do you take some bench guys and maybe they get some shine? So a little bit of a tricky slate, not the best slate, but, this is where champs are made. If you can go ahead and find winners in these kind of slates, that's what separates you from the rest.
Yeah, we're at the mercy of the slate. We're at the mercy of the wheel. Let's go ahead and spin it.
I guess money line's the one thing that kind of sucks the most because there's really just 2 options.
Yeah.
We're going to get a combo here.
Ooh, okay, I do have a combo. Perfect. All right. Combo is our first category here. I'm going to go with I am touching one of those games that's a little bit risky here because it is an over on a player, and it's a big spread. It's the Cleveland game, and I'm looking at Evan Mobley. Which again, if they start blowing this Brooklyn team out and whatnot, we could see some issues. But I like Evan Mobley today over 25.5 points plus rebounds. He's done this in 4 straight against Brooklyn, so we like to see that, right? Over his last 10 games, he's hit this in 8. Obviously, we want the minutes from him. I think that's ultimately what this is going to come down to. But over his last 10 games, you're averaging nearly 28 points plus rebounds per game, and he's getting a ton of rebound chances, which is obviously great. We're seeing 20 plus on any given night. This is a spot in which I could see, Jared Allen really cleaning up down there because we do have a Brooklyn team that has a couple guys that do like to get to the rim. And obviously, I say all the time on the show, when there's teams that shoot a lot at the rim, centers get a lot more rebounds. But Evan Mobley should be sticking around there. If he's going to follow Cam Johnson around, then we could get kind of screwed. But Cam Thomas may be playing here. D'Angelo Russell's there. We could see some longer rebounds that kind of go past Jared Allen here and fall right into the lap of Mobley. And also, I'm talking rebounds, right? There's a chance that Evan Mobley can go out there and get 26 points himself in this as well. So over 25.5 points plus rebounds is where I'm looking at this one. He's been crushing it lately. Only one game really where he didn't have the best of nights, and that was his last game against Milwaukee. So hoping for a little bounce back here.
Not bad. I personally probably would have went with Jared Allen's rebounds over Evan Mobley just because I do think the matchup's a little bit better. I think Miles Turner, it's very strange what's happened. I think we talked about it before. I don't know what really happened with him. He went from like a rim protecting, rebounding guy to now he's like, he doesn't really play defense that much. Not really a great rebounder. He just kind of goes out and shoots threes now.
Yeah, Miles Turner.
Evolution,
But Miles Turner, they're not playing Indiana.
oh shit. Oh
But
no, did I just get off a plane from Vegas?
I hustled Tasos. Let's go. Let's go.
Spoiler alert, the pick I'm going with is in Bucks Pacers. That's why I'm on Bucks Pacers mode. They're playing Brooklyn, right?
Brooklyn.
Oh yeah. So you know what? I still probably would like Allen because I don't think Nick Claxton. Kind of the same thing. Claxton's rebounding numbers have not been that impressive this year. So nice little pivot on my part there.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
I guess I don't hate it because Cam Johnson, who's basically their power forward, he's not exactly a rebounding savant. So yeah, I don't hate that. The only thing that would be a negative here is that blowout potential if he plays enough. But yeah, considering that I wasn't really, paying the most attention, I guess I can't really say.
Yeah, we got points plus rebounds. So again, like he could go out there and score 25 points and make this no sweat. You know what I mean? So I do like that spot for him. All right, get to your Miles Turner center pick now.
No. I'm not picking Miles Turner. No. I've learned my lesson on that one. He's burned me a couple times.
Oh yeah.
In the last week. I'm gonna go ahead instead and rock with Damian Lillard over 6.5 assists. Oh, it's a combo. What the hell? Did I just get off a plane? Damian Lillard over 30.5 points plus assists. Excuse me. I did have a combo pick. Damian Lillard over 30.5 points plus assists. It's minus 122 over on FanDuel. Not too bad odds there. The data from a recent standpoint, not great. Just 4 of his last 10. But if you go ahead and look at the overall picture for him, 56% hit rate this year, 30 out of 54 games. He's cashed it, averaging 32.44 points plus assists per game this season. From a head-to-head standpoint, he's played Indiana 10 times, including playoffs since last year. He's cashed in 6 out of 10. He's averaging 30 points plus assists per game. He's played him twice this year. The first time back in November, he did cash the over. The more recent time back on December 31st, he came well short and had a really rough game. Shot, trying to pull up the shooting numbers, 3 for 14 from the floor. So he had a really rough shooting game the last time out. But the data, 14 shot attempts. He had 12 potential assists. So the opportunities have been there. He's averaging almost 18 shots per game across the last 10 meetings with Indiana. So, and the Pacers this year, not a very good defensive team overall versus point guards. Now, they have been getting better lately. The overall numbers, they rank 25th in points allowed. Over the last 7 games, they are actually in the top 10. So they've been getting a little bit better defensively, but from an assist standpoint, they're 27th overall this year, 30th in the last 7 games. So that's why I was kind of leaning the assist route here. I think he could get a lot of assists in this one. But Indiana, although they look better the last couple of games, I do still think that Halliburton, he's just not a great defensive player. I think Lillard could definitely take advantage of the matchup. It's a 3-point spread too, so I don't really worry too much about blowouts because the books are telling you this game should be on the closer side. So I like Lillard here over 30.5 points plus assists.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mind that. I think that there's a good look in terms of the matchup, right? And then even with thinking about Lillard and where his assists come from and whatnot, like this Pacers team doesn't do much to stop anything at the rim. So you could have a Giannis Lillard 2-man game, that type of thing, where Lillard may get a couple more, assists that he normally wouldn't get, and then points. Like this team, yeah, sure, the Pacers honestly have been a lot better defensively in the last month or so. But overall, like it's Damian Lillard is probably going to still shoot a decent amount. And he had the field goal attempts last time, and him going like shooting 21% from the floor, I don't think is going to happen. I think he was like 1 of 9 from 3, so it's kind of due for a bounce back there. But I do think the assists. I know you mentioned that first, and then realized it was the combo. I do like the idea of assists. I think 40+% of his assists come at the rim, and this is the Pacers team that overall has definitely had their struggles with defending the paint this season. So yeah, I don't necessarily hate it. And it should be a close one, right? Like again, +3 the spreads right now, like or 3.5 2. You shouldn't have to worry about the blow up potential there.
Yeah, he cashed it in. I mean, you have to. Okay, some of them were playoff games, so it's a different atmosphere. Obviously, and that was when
Mhm.
Giannis wasn't playing, so he had to take more shots. But he had, including playoffs, cashed it in 5 consecutive matchups versus Indiana going into their last game back in late December.
Mhm.
So, he's had some good performance. I mean, some big games too. I mean, 35 points, 34 points, 28, 28, 24. So, I mean, he scores a pretty healthy amount. Like I said, the last game, he had 9 points. We talked about it, 1 for 9 from 3, 3 for 14 overall. That doesn't happen too much with him. He is listed as a game time decision, but at this point in the year, I think everybody's pretty much listed as a game time decision every game. The other thing is on the other side, Halliburton is a game time decision, which actually could be even better for us because if he does play, he's been dealing with his hip thing for the last couple of weeks. It could make him hobble a little bit defensively, which obviously
Mhm.
would be good for us. So, I think overall it's not a bad play. That I know the numbers say they've been better, but I've still seen some guys go off when playing Indiana, specifically point guards. So I don't think it's a bad spot overall. Again, for -122 odds, he could just cash in points alone. Realistically, I mean,
Yeah.
I could see him scoring 32 points, and we don't have to worry about the assists. But I think like 25 points and 7 assists is a very realistic stat line for him, and that obviously cashes us. So that's what I think it's a pretty good combo prop.
All right, we shall see. Let's move into round number 2 here. You're going to be starting us off.
Yep.
Combo off the board now.
Yep. I promise I will
Um,
not mess this one up.
do you looking for anything specifically, or kind of like what you said already at the beginning of the show?
I mean, obviously, if we stick with player props, I wouldn't mind it. I kind of want to get money line or spread just so we get out of the way because I only have a limited number of plays there to begin with.
Yeah.
But that's sort of where I'm leaning. But yeah, player props, I obviously have a lot of them
Yeah.
available. But
All right, let's see what we got.
all right, we're looking like
That's
we're
going to be a total or a spread. Is it going? Wow, that's going to
total.
total. That is a narrow total, but total it is, Tasos. And I only have one total right now that I like, so I'm hoping you don't take it. I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's not a lot of options here. I guess I'm gonna actually stick probably with the same game I was just talking about. I'm gonna go ahead with the Bucks Pacers. I'm actually gonna go ahead and take the under here, 234.5. The under has hit in 6 of the Bucks' last 8 games on the road. That's a 75% hit rate overall this year. For both these teams, Milwaukee is cashing the under this under particularly at 234.5 at a 70% hit rate. Indiana 52%, so not as good, but still more than half the time they're cashing it. Look, Milwaukee's a really solid defensive team this year. We just talked about it. Indiana of late has been a better defensive team. We look at the head-to-head numbers here. The last few times they played, I mean, the over is cashed more often than the under has, but 3 of the last 4, the under has cashed. So a little more consistently lately. I just think both these teams pretty solid, especially of late defensively. Overall this year, Indiana, when you look at their overall numbers, it's not great for them. But like we just talked about with the Lillard prop, lately they've been a lot better, and I think that counts for something. Milwaukee, I'm actually been pretty impressed with Milwaukee because last year, if you remember, before they brought in Doc Rivers, they were a mess defensively.
Mm-hmm.
They are much better this year. Second best field goal percentage in terms of defense. Like teams are not hitting their shots very well on them. Indiana kind of the same thing. you go through all the numbers. I mean, like I said, they're not. I wouldn't say Milwaukee they're the best defensive team, 12th in points allowed. Um, but again, 12th is not terrible. It's top half of the league. So and the fact that like if especially like if, let's say Giannis doesn't play, a lot of Milwaukee's scoring gets affected that way. Um, so yeah, I think the totals, I'm going to be honest, was probably the one category where I didn't come the most prepared. This is the one that I think caught my eye the most. But I wouldn't say I'm like I'm not going to put 5 units on this play, but I think of all the totals available, I think this one made the most sense to me.
Yeah, I could totally see that being the case. There it is a high number. I don't know if that it's necessarily correlates to Lillard having a good game, but he could still obviously cash that without it. I'm going in a uh different direction. This is realistically the only total that I like as of right now, like even using the word like, and it's a team total, but it is one that I think I was hoping you wouldn't take, and you didn't, but Washington team total under 110.5. This
Mhm.
is this is going to be a matchup, them and the Pistons, of two teams that are playing really, really fast. Detroit's playing fast basketball. Washington's playing fast basketball, but neither team's offense is all that efficient. So even if we do have a lot of possessions in this game or a lot of, tempo and pace, I don't think either team's going to totally capitalize on everything. Now, Detroit, I honestly do think could kind of, score at ease at the rim, like what, a hot knife going through butter, wherever the saying is. But Washington, I don't really see how they're going to uh, score here. They've been chucking a bunch of threes over the last handful of games here, second in terms of above the break frequency. Detroit, even though some of the season long numbers of their points from three wouldn't be all that great, above the break three, which is the spot that the Wizards are shooting from, 30.5% field goal percentage against, which is really good. The Pistons, for whatever reason, stink at covering the corner three. I'm sure they collapse on guys, they get close to the rim and leave that open. 44.4% from the right corner, 43.1% from the left corner. Washington dead last in corner threes. So I don't think that Washington's going to get their three balls, via the corner. They don't even shoot them themselves, never mind the matchup. So yeah, I don't see Washington putting up a big number here. Under 110.5 right now is minus 130 over on MGM. I think that's a decent enough number. Kind of looked at this, at a lower number for plus money too, but I kind of figured I'd stick right in that minus 130 range.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. The one thing that you could be at risk of here is if Detroit gains a pretty significant lead, which is very possible. Maybe Washington garbage time, they start, getting a lot of
And they
shots
could just
up.
huck too, yeah.
But I'm going to be honest, I don't hate the pick because Washington, this is clearly the worst team in the NBA. They are clearly, well, actually, I shouldn't say clearly because even if they were trying to win, this team is so bad. They're tanking for Cooper Flag, not by choice. They're
Yeah.
taking Cooper Flag because they have to. They literally can't win. Um, they can't, like you said, they can't hit threes in general. Never mind in a good matchup spot. I mean, they can't. They don't. Who are their scorers? I mean, you have Jordan Poole taking 25 shots a game, and he's still
Mhm.
only averaging like 19 points, 20
Yep.
points per game. I mean, it's not efficient. They don't really have consistent scorers here. Again, you have a team that doesn't want to win. Really, I mean, the bottom of the league right now. I looked at it before we started recording. There's only like 3 games separating Washington from New Orleans and Charlotte and some of these other teams, Utah. It's all very close, and I do think when you're one of these teams like Washington, where you're not ever going to attract a free agent to your team, you need Cooper Flag. It's the only chance the Wizards have of kind of getting back to relevancy. They don't want to win. They don't want to win. They can't win even if they wanted to win. And Detroit's in a situation where they actually need the game. So they are going to try hard. They want to go ahead and get the victory because they are still in the middle of that Eastern Conference playoff battle right now. I think they'd like to be a little bit higher in the rankings. But like I said, I just don't think Washington has the scoring capabilities to score enough. And Detroit's a pretty solid defensive team.
Yeah. Um, I saw on actually when I was on the plane this morning or last night, depending on how you look at it, Cooper Flag now, like his projection of where he's going to be playing next year is he's gonna return to Duke. You think that's obviously just like odds on right now. It that can change and most likely probably go to the NBA. But do you think that because of how bad some of these teams are at the bottom of the NBA would impact someone like him, having him like being like, oh, I think I'm gonna wait to go, or does that like it doesn't even have to be him specific? I'm just saying, do you think that type of thing impacts guys' decision, or is he like, no, I'm going to the league and we'll figure it out then?
I think more in the NFL. I think in the NFL that happens a lot more. NBA, It can happen. I just think with the thing with the NBA is it's such an individual sport
Mhm.
where it's like even if the team stinks, Cooper Flag can at least kind of shine. Like in the NFL, you see it a lot because it's, especially like a quarterback, for example, because if you go to a bad team, it's not like you can just, okay, well, I'm talented enough, I can rise above it. If you don't have an offensive line, you don't have receivers, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And it affects your whole career. NBA is a little bit different because, like I said, even if the team around you stinks, you can still do your own thing and put up your stats and get traded and get a max contract somewhere else. I just think the thing is the money part of it is just too big. Like I know he's making good money at Duke with NIL, but like the earlier he gets in the NBA, the earlier he can get that first max contract.
Mhm.
And so I do think that plays into it. Like I said, I think look, maybe Washington gets the first pick and he goes, "Yeah, I'm good." But I think any team he'd be lucky to play for. I mean, even like Charlotte, like you get to play with LaMelo Ball and
Yeah.
Brandon Miller and all those guys. Like I don't think it's Washington is truly the only spot where it's like, "Ooh, you really want to go there?" But
Yeah, I
I don't
did.
know.
I
I
did
mean,
that. Look, again, it's March 11th, right? The luck can
yeah,
change, but I did think it was interesting that the odds for where he'll be playing next year now was the favorite was Duke, and I was like, this guy's one of the supposedly the new transcendent player. Usually, to your point, those guys jump to the league. So I'm sure he, honestly, I am sure he will. But interesting that was the new odds-on favorite there. But yeah, we'll see. The Cooper Flag tank for him is, I think it's in full effect. I think it's some teams look like, even like you said, like maybe it's not intentional or whatnot, but I think that is in everybody's brain. And
yeah,
Wizards probably in the front of the line, not even probably are in the front of the line. Their win percentage is like 20%. It's
it's awful. They are by far the
terrible.
worst team in the NBA.
It
They
is
won some
terrible.
games earlier in the year that kind of helped their record, but they're
Yeah.
13-50. Like that's and
Yeah.
they're and honestly, they might win 4 more games the rest of the year, maybe, which is crazy to
Yikes.
say, but I still stay, and I know some people are like, they're like, oh, you don't let him go there. I want Cooper Flag to go to the Spurs. I mean, I'm not a Spurs fan, but like, the thing is, people are like, oh, that's not fun because now they're a super team with De'Aaron Fox and Flag and Wemby and all that. But like, I would rather see that and see him play on a good team than see him in Washington where he's going to never be in prime time and he's always going to
Yeah.
be,
I mean,
kind of locked away
it's
until he eventually moves to a better team.
you're also, that's kind of like you can't really get mad at a homegrown super. I mean, De'Aaron Fox isn't, but you know what I mean. Like Wemby and Flag through the draft, it's like you can't be like, oh, it's a super. Like people would say that, but it's also no, it's not. You have a at that point like a third year guy and a rookie. It's like you can't be like, oh, that's bad for the league. It's like no, these are two really young guys. Like we saw it with Steph and Clay once they kind of hit their stride. It's like yeah, you have a super team in a sense, but homegrown.
Well,
Jason
it's like
Tatum and
It would
Brown.
literally be David Robinson and Tim Duncan part two. Like it would be like the same thing. And honestly, that's why we talked about a couple weeks ago how Wemby's injured the blood clot, which is a lot more serious than what David Robinson had. But David Robinson got hurt, and that team stunk, and then they end up with Tim
Boom.
Duncan, and it
Yeah.
sets them for the next 20 years. So I think the NBA is better when you have dynasties and when you have these kind of really good teams. And I just think Cooper Flag in Washington or Cooper Flag in Charlotte, he'll play there for 4 or 5 years until he gets traded to a better team. So
Yeah, Charlotte could be fun. I mean, that's you're never gonna like
with
thrive
LaMelo,
there,
with
but
all those
that
guys, yeah.
that could be a pretty like fun team. Mark Williams too,
And
Bridget
I
like
do
that.
like Charles Lee. He's a Celtics guy, so their head coach. So I mean that one I wouldn't mind too much. But like even like Utah, like if he goes to Utah, it's like okay, I
But
guess.
I feel like he's such like a Utah Jazz type player.
Yeah.
Like that
Well,
he would.
because he's white.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm saying. I
I was
think
gonna say like yeah, I guess that makes sense.
yeah, I'm not wrong. All right, let's move on to round number 3 here. I am starting us off. Let's see what we
Yes, you
got.
are. Yep.
Let's spin it.
That team would be very white. They'd have Walker Kessler, Cooper Flag,
Larry
Laurie
Markkinen.
Markkinen. That would be a very white team. All right,
All right,
point.
points. I don't actually have points, but I think I can pivot from some of the other ones I have, some of the other combos I have here, so I shouldn't be in too rough of shape. Let's see what we have. I kind of like. Oh, that's all right.
Those are tough spots. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, I like what I have here. I'm almost hoping. So this is I'm double dipping into that game I just talked about. This could be somewhat of a blow and whatnot, but I think that when I should say when blowouts occur, this guy seems to just go off for this team. Malik Beasley on the Pistons over 16 and a half points. That dude doesn't care if this is a blowout or anything like that. He'll come in and chuck and shoot and get his. You know what I mean? Like I think back to that game when they played the Bulls. He played 16 minutes. That was the one where they like stomped the Bulls. They did it them 2 nights in a row. I don't know if you remember that. It was like a month ago or something, right? He played. I forget. Let's see if I can actually just find that game log here. It shouldn't be that hard. He played like 16 minutes. Oh yeah, ready? Played 16 minutes, 24 points. He went 8 of 12 from the field, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. The guy just came and chucked in a blowout. Didn't even play the minutes. Like that's a crazy stat line. He has hit the over here in 11 of his last 20 head to head against Washington. We saw him back in mid-November here. Same thing. Played 29 minutes, but just chucked. He went 10 of 16 from the field. He took 11 threes. So yes, this guy comes off the bench for the team and whatnot, but I do think he should get his fair share of minutes. And I hate to say it, I think that he's also a guy that can score a lot of points in blowouts too. Like that, he usually leads that. He gets hot and stays hot. So yeah, decent spot here, and it's a game in which does have a fast pace, which helps that as well. I don't want Washington to score that many points, but if we put these two things in a vacuum, that does help. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Malik Beasley here. Throw in the fact that 54% of his buckets come from above the break, and that is where Washington just absolutely struggles. So, yeah, I like the spot. Washington
Yeah,
struggles everywhere, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
I was gonna say they do struggle pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I think especially with since Jaden Ivey's gone down,
Hmm.
Malik Beasley has definitely stepped up a lot. He is more because Cade Cunningham can score. Don't get me wrong, but he's not exactly what I would call a go-to shot taker. He's a lot more of like a traditional point guard where he likes to set up the offense. I mean, he can definitely score if called upon. But I do think Malik Beasley's had some of these moments, some of these nights where he just kind of goes off, and
And
especially
he might like, I guess that is like kind of double edged, like that could blow up when, if he's not on, then honestly this is probably like a 9-10 point night from him. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
against a bad defense, I think that's kind of what, kind of to your point too, like in my opinion, there's more of a go off chance than there isn't. And when he has that opportunity, boom, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. It's like he's going to have opportunities. Washington defensively, they're a nightmare, and he should be able to get. He's going to get a healthy amount of shots. I don't see why this shouldn't cash. The only thing again is maybe minutes played. Does he play enough minutes? Does he, But the thing with Detroit right now, and this is kind of the reason why I don't take them too seriously as a contender, is they don't really have a lot of shot makers right
Hmm.
now. Like you look offensively, it's Cade, and then Tobias Harris is basically their second best offensive player, which is not exactly what you want from a contending team. So I don't hate it. I do think Malik Beasley is probably the better bet of all the players available in this game because I think of all the guys, he has the better chance of playing a little bit more. Like if the game gets to a blowout, I could see Beasley being left in for a few minutes more than let's say Harris or Jalen Duren or Cade
Hmm.
Cunningham. Like Beasley, I think will still get his. So I don't mind that at all.
So I just using Outlier, shout out to Outlier, link down below, 7-day trial. When they win by 10 plus points this year, he's hitting 12 of 18 games, averaging over 19 points per game, and he's playing 27 minutes per game. So, when they have these 10-point wins, or I mean, you can even look at like 13 plus point wins, he's hitting 9 of 13, 27 minutes again. So, yeah, kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy that if they blow teams out, if they do, he's either part of it or also gets some minutes on the tail end of it.
Yeah, like I said, not a bad. Listen, Ev, gotta give you credit. Coming off the plane, battling demons, hungover, tired, finding some good plays. I'm proud.
Yeah,
I honestly was like, I don't know what this is gonna be today. I could see Ev taking some crazy, crazy. Let's say Yves Messi over 16 and a half points, kind
yeah.
of day. But no, I like the player props.
Maybe I should have gone Beasley 20 plus, but hey, missed that chance. All right, what do you got?
I'm going, and I don't listen. I don't know why I keep taking this. I mean, I know why I keep taking him because he does hit sometimes for me. But I'm addicted to betting this guy's player props like it's a drug. I'm going Cam Thomas over 22 and a half points, which is minus 105 over on DraftKings. People are gonna flame me. I know it's not a great defensive matchup. Cleveland, obviously top 10 defensive team, but the guy takes literally almost 20 shots a game.
Yeah,
He
he
has
just
the green light to just chuck. And I gave this player prop. I've given this player prop out twice in the last week. He did hit it versus Golden State, and he didn't hit the over versus Charlotte. So I was 1-2 betting on this guy last week. I mean, the data is actually not bad. 6 of his last 10 overall this year, 57% hit rate. And even from a head-to-head perspective, 3 of his last 5 games against Cleveland, he's cashed the over. And the one time they played this year, he missed it by 1 point back in November. And you look at the volume of shots there again. scrolling down below. He took 17 shots, shot 6 for 17, and missed it by 1 point. The thing with Cam Thomas that's always so like enticing to bet him is he does not shoot the ball well at all. He's not an efficient player. He's the definition of an inefficient player. Takes a bunch of shots, but none of them are really all that good. But there's going to be the night where he does get hot. And, when you're taking 18, 19, 22, 20, all this volume of shots, all it takes is you to shoot 45% and you cash the over. That's the beauty of Cam Thomas. Like, even a bad shooting night, look at the other night versus Golden State, for example. He shot 8 for 18, which normally is not that good. And he cashed the over. So that's kind of what works there. So, again, Cleveland, they're ranked 12th right now defensively versus shooting guards, which is, obviously not bad at all. But I just think in this kind of game, blowout or not, this is like the Nets are not a team where like Cam Thomas, they're going to sit here like, okay, Cleveland's up by 10. Let's save Cam Thomas for the next game. Like, that's not the kind of team Brooklyn is. They're a bad team. They're kind of one of these teams that are kind of in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes also. So I think even in the event of a blowout, he's going to play a healthy amount of minutes. Now he is returning from hamstring injury. He played the most minutes since returning from injury. His last game, he played 29 minutes versus Charlotte. So we're seeing an increase in playing time as well. It should be noted, though, the last couple of games, he has been playing in mostly tight games. So it's kind of tough to see. The last kind of blowout he was a part of was versus San Antonio. He lost by 4. They lost by 14, which isn't a crazy blowout, but he did still cash the over in that game at 26 minutes. So that's the other thing. Even looking one last point before I, quit my ramble here. Even if you look at some of these games, like for example, he played his first game back from injury. He played Portland. He only played 21 minutes and he still got off 17 shots in that game. Yep. So he doesn't really need to play 30 plus minutes. If he does play 30 plus minutes, his shot attempts are going to be like 30 shots in a game. But he doesn't need to play a ton for him to take a like I said, this guy has the ultimate green light from anywhere on the court for this team. So when you have a guy who's taking 18 and 19 shots a game and his line is only set at 22.5 points, I think it's pretty good value.
Yeah, that's also to your point about even coming off the injury and whatnot. That was a blowout. They got smoked by Portland.
Yeah, Portland. Yeah.
Coming off of injury in a blowout, he still played 20 plus minutes. And yes, obviously, he finished shy of the number, but they weren't really shy about him playing. You know what I mean? Like you'd think, oh, maybe that's like a 15-minute night from 20 plus minutes. I like this solely because of the quantity. You do kind of have me hesitating a little bit because of the matchup. You mentioned that. But for what it's worth, we do have a game here. What is the current total? I know it's total of 227.5. Like Cleveland, yeah, they're gonna score. They'll probably score a decent amount of points, obviously, right? And I hope Evan Mobley scores some of those. But 227.5 with the Brooklyn Nets playing, who are a really slow team. That tells me that at least the books to some degree are thinking that there's some contribution from Brooklyn side of things. And if that's the case, if there's any pulse on the offense there, and he's playing obviously, then he's going to have his fair share of shots. So yeah, I don't mind. I think that the matchup is the only thing that, like I said, has me hesitating, but he's kind of matchup independent in terms of quantity. Quality, sure, maybe you can make the argument, but you know what, you can't, you're not going to find me sitting here being like, oh, it's a terrible look because of his injury and all that. You're probably still getting a decent line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's so funny because like when I do my player prop videos, people will always say like, oh, well, why don't you, if you don't feel that confident, why don't you bet the opposite, bet the under? Betting an under on a Cam Thomas player prop is the ultimate sweat. Like, the guy takes so many shots in a game. Like every time he puts up a 3, you're sweating your balls off because you're like, oh my god, is that going to go in or not? Like the over, I feel like, is as long as the line isn't too crazy, which because he's coming back from injury, you're getting not a huge discount. His normal line would probably be 24.5.
Yeah, that's he was sitting right around. I feel like he pre main injury. Like, I feel like that's what he was sitting around. But even that, it was like he got his quantity. But you already mentioned it. It's like technically, it's the efficiency has always been the concern, right? Like he'll get his field goal attempts.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. So it's like like, and the other the thing is like we talk about the matchup, but from a head-to-head standpoint, he's cashed in 3 of his last 5. He's averaging 26 points per game across the last 5 meetings with Cleveland. And again, the one time they played this year, he did have 22 points. It was only a 5-point win for Cleveland, to be fair. Brooklyn at that point in the year were still playing. It was literally the second week of the season, so they were playing, a lot tougher. They had Dorian Finney-Smith. It was a different team. but he only shot 6 for 17. So like he didn't even really have a good game. He shot 35% from the floor, but he still just barely missed. And the reason it being is that, he takes a high volume of threes, very large amount of free throws. He went 8 for 8 from the free throw line in that game, but he's averaging even, look at the more recent numbers. Like he takes a lot of free throws. He draws a lot of fouls, which is a credit to him. The last 5 games, even, he's still a little bit lower, averaging 4 free throw attempts per game. But overall this year, he's averaging almost 7 free throw attempts per game as a guard, which is pretty good. So, yeah, like I said, the sheer volume of opportunity for him is really where I'm going with in this one.
Yeah, how about this too? Just looking at games in which he shoots 15 times at least, which 17 in that game against Cleveland, 12 of 18 this year. So
Yeah.
no surprise, obviously, more field goal attempts come with that. But if we think the volume is going to be there, then I think that's a pretty good look. All right, we're moving on to fade me already.
Fade me. Yes,
All
sir.
right, guys, if you don't know what the fade me round is, I know I kind of teased it at the beginning of the show. Essentially, we're going to spin the wheel just like you saw at the beginning. It's going to have our names on it. Whoever it lands on gets to make a play anywhere on the board. And the other person, they don't get to make their own pick that round. They have to take the exact opposite. If I take an over on something, Tasos has to take the under, vice versa. But it all comes down to who the wheel ends up landing on. Do you have one in your you got one in your pocket there that you want, that you need? Because I do have one that I like, but
Here, I don't want to admit this because it's like admitting defeat. I have options, but not like last week where I'm like, oh, I love this prop. I have a couple that I don't mind. There's nothing in this slate because this is not the best slate. There's nothing I have where it's like, oh, I got Ev right where I want him. There's a couple good options, but I'll be honest, I would like to see what you got. To be
yeah,
fair,
well, I'll be honest. I found mine as we were doing the show, stumbling across a couple other things. So it wasn't even something that I had coming into this as a plan, but I do like it. So I wouldn't mind getting it here. But yeah, it is a weird slate. And again, we get comments all the time, right, Tassos? People are like, why is the fade me around? It's a huge advantage for, it's like, well, technically you're still betting at, like, even if you love your side and I have to take the under, you could be handing me, we talk about it all the time, you could be handing me a winner. Like if I take team A money line, because I love it, and then that means you have to take Team B. It's like, well, Team B can still win the damn game. Like it's not.
yeah, absolutely.
It's so that's what makes it pretty cool, and it definitely is cool. And we have like this, obviously, a solid chance of at least one winner and one loser. So we both don't go like 3-3, 4-4, and then get a little dicey in there. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and spin it. I wouldn't mind it, but we'll see.
I have one prop. I'm gonna get it too. I got one prop. Where I'm like, all
are
right,
you gonna get it?
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, you are.
I'm calling my shot. Shout out
Yeah,
calling
you
my
are.
shot.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
So you got.
I was gonna save this one for my own video, kind of being a little greedy, but you know what? I gotta empty the clip here in order to get the victory. I'm going with the Clippers Pelicans game, 8 p.m. tip off. We're going Trey Murphy the third over 30.5 points, rebounds, assists, minus 105 over on DraftKings for me. So you would get the under at minus 122 on FanDuel, but like, when I do my odds, I do whatever's available to me in my state. I don't have Caesars in my state. Is Caesars in Massachusetts?
Yep.
Okay, so you get minus 117. I'll give you minus 117 on the under. I'm taking the over for minus 105 on DraftKings.
Okay.
Now the overall data and the recent data both okay. Nothing like jumping out of the ceiling. It's not like, oh my god, it's the best data of all time. He's got a 53% hit rate this year, averaging 30.59 PRAs per game this year. Last 10, 50%. Again, 50-50. He's averaging 28.2 PRAs per game, so not terrible. Last 20 games, 60% hit rate, 32.1. Again, not bad. Again, there's nothing about this player prop where the data is like blows you out of the water. However, a couple key things. First and foremost, we look at games played this year without DeJounte Murray, but with Zion Williamson, because that's one thing I was looking at before the show.
Okay.
That little data range. Let me pull this up real quick. This season, he's cashed in 8 of 14 games when he plays without DeJounte Murray and with Zion. He's averaging 31 PRAs per game. So that's one thing I really like about this matchup. Just take the DeJounte Murray part of it out of it. This year, he's played with Zion 19 times, and he's cashed the over at a 58% hit rate with Zion Williamson this season. So he's playing very well with Zion in general. 11 of 19 games, he's cashed the over with Zion this year. So pretty good numbers there with him, especially with Trey Murphy being out. It puts a lot more responsibility on Trey Murphy from an offensive standpoint, which I think is the key thing here. Because the rebounding numbers, the assist numbers, those are all pretty solid with Trey Murphy. He usually puts up a pretty decent number of stats in those categories. The key thing here is more the points part of it.
Mhm.
Because of the DeJounte Murray injury, it's kind of put more responsibility on Trey Murphy. Now, the head-to-head data is not good. I'll be straight up honest. He's failed to cash it each of his last 4 matchups with the Clippers. They've only played once this year, though, on December 30th, and he only missed it by 3. He finished that game with 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists, and he only took 10 shots in that game. Now, that's, I think, the key to this. He only took 10 shots, but if we go ahead and look at the numbers for the last, let's say, 5 games for him, now he's cashed the over 3 of the last 5, and he's taking almost 16 shots per game now. So his volume has significantly increased from a shot-taking standpoint. And again, he just missed it the last time they played the Clippers by 3. If he's taking 6 more shots, he only realistically needs to hit 1 or 2 of those 6 shots, and now we have an over on our hands. So in the last game out versus Memphis, he took 21 shots in that game. He's averaging 8.8 rebound chances per game, 7 potential assists per game over the last 5 games. All of these numbers the last 5 games. He's taking almost 8 threes per game over his last 5, which I think that's a crazy number. Especially, again, look at the Clippers, the head-to-head numbers there. The last time they played, he did take 7 threes. He went 4 for 7 from 3, but he's even taking more threes than he was before. So, like I said, the overall data is not bad. And the one last point is the insight provided by Outlier. Trey Murphy has exceeded this line in 4 of his last 5 games at home, averaging 32.4 PRAs per game over the last 5 home games. If you look at the overall numbers this year in New Orleans, he's actually hitting at a 52% hit rate in New Orleans, including 7 of his last 10 home games. So, like I said, it's not the greatest player prop of all time. The data is solid, not great across the board, but also the Clippers defensively versus small forwards, 25th in points allowed, 22nd in rebounds allowed this season. So not a bad matchup.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand on this one. So this is how I spin it. I do think that's a good spot for Trey Murphy. I do. But I'm also like, that is like a high-ish line where I'm almost okay with the under in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he could have a really good game and still end up kind of like he did last time, 28, 29-ish. So I can't, like, I'm not poking holes in what you're saying or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's more so I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not like like it's not one of the like this is one of those where we've done it before where you give me something, I give you something, and it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate having that. Like, this is kind of right on the cusp there. I'd probably, if I looked at this and broke this one down myself, I'd probably end up leaning towards the over. So I guess you got me there, but I think that this is a pretty high number, and yeah, the hit rate looks okay on the season and whatnot, but it's there's been some duds in there as well. I will say, if you exclude, just using outlier here, and I don't have the exact numbers, but if you exclude what looks like the first maybe 2 months of the season and then just go from there, it's a lot better. So he definitely started the season slower and now has got going. Whether it's Zion out, DeJounte Murray out, he's clearly been playing a lot better, so that worries me a little bit having the under. But yeah, this is one where I'm probably like 50-50 on it, but I do think that I would end up leaning over. So I guess you got me there.
Well, yeah, and the thing with the Clippers is like in this matchup for New Orleans, I mean, where else are they really going to get their scoring from? I mean, McCollum, it's not a good matchup for him. The Clippers, they are top 10 in all 3 categories versus shooting guards. Now, Norman Powell is out, which probably will affect that a little bit. But they rank pretty well defensively on the perimeter versus point guards versus shooting guards. They rank pretty decent. Even versus power forwards and centers, they rank really well versus power forwards, which is big for Zion here. Clippers are the number 1 scoring defense. They don't give up many points to power forwards. So the only real weakness this Clippers defense has is versus small forwards, which is where Trey Murphy plays. And obviously, with no DeJounte Murray, with McCollum being on the older side, they don't have a center, really. I mean, they have Yves Messi, but, he's not really a scoring guy. And Noah Olynyk tonight, he's out.
Mm-hmm.
You really, in terms of offense, you have 3 options. You've got McCollum, you've got Murphy, and you've got Zion. And like we just talked about, Zion's a tough matchup. McCollum, not the best matchup. Then you have to start going to the bench guys. Can you rely on Jordan Hawkins, my UConn Husky guy? Can you rely on him to step up? I think Trey Murphy, of all the players, has the best matchup, and the volume is there. Like I said, the last 5 games, he's cashed at 3 of his last 5. The one of those 2 that he missed over the last 5 games versus the Lakers, missed it by 1. So to your credit, he does, even when he misses, it's very close. But like you said, he could finish with 29-30, which he's done a lot, and you go ahead and get the win there.
Right.
But he's playing 35 minutes per game. He's taken 16 shots, 8 threes. Again, almost 9 rebounds, 7 assists potential per game. You know, a lot of volume and a lot of opportunities in a matchup where I think if the Pelicans want to stay somewhat close, and the line does suggest it's going to be a little bit of a close game. The
Yeah.
Clippers are only 6-point favorites in this game. So if they're going to stay close, it's got to be Trey Murphy and Zion or Zion to do it. And I just think Zion is not the best matchup for him because they can really defend down low very well. I think Trey Murphy is probably, if you're looking to bet a player prop on the Pelicans, he's probably your best bet in this game.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mind it. Like I said, it's got me kind of on the ropes with it, but there's a lot of good points that you're making there. I think it's even throwing in the fact that, yeah, you mentioned Zion, like obviously you've taken him a few times in this as well, but that's not really where I think I would look. Like he's probably going to get he's going to get the Kawhi matchup, and or when he gets to the rim have to go up against big Zubac. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
that's a little bit tough. So yeah, I do think Murphy can kind of fill it up from multiple spots on the floor as well. But yeah, how do you feel about your? I know we had a weird kind of short slate. You like the board you put together here?
I do. The only pick out of the 4 picks, the only one where I'm like, is that total with the Bucks Pacers? The only one where I'm like, yeah, it was just a high line for me in a game where they both could play pretty well defense. But besides that pick, all the player props I handed out, I like quite a bit. The Trey Murphy pick I like. Even the Damian Lillard one, even though I screwed up on it, I do think Lillard is a good matchup there versus
Yeah, but now you
Indiana.
can like
So, yeah.
you're gonna like you probably did it on purpose because now if he gets the assist, you can victory lap like, oh well, I kind of said I really liked the assist, but
Oh,
I had to
listen,
throw.
am
Yeah,
I going to do that? Possibly. There's a good chance that if he gets just 7 assists but doesn't score the points, I might go ahead and say, well, I did say assists.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of like what I have. Granted, I had a red eye flight of research in me, which I think my eyes were closed for most of the research, but I do like what I have here. Blowouts pending with the Malik Beasley and Evan Mobley one as well. But you know what? I think we did pretty well for a 4-game NBA slate with 2 of them being some blowout numbers there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if you made it this far into the video, comment either Team Tasos or Team Ev, whoever you are riding with, or who do you think is going to win the week. Tasos, it's pretty damn cool that we mentioned, like 45 plus minutes into some of these shows that we're doing weekly, saying, hey, comment this or whatever. And we're getting a lot of those comments. I really
Yeah.
think that that's awesome. And I appreciate anyone. Like, we love seeing the recurring usernames and whatnot of the people that are really kind of supporting it and enjoying the content, because that's a good way that I always do it with like the numbers. And I know you do the words and stuff in your video, but I love seeing the like, why is everyone commenting this? And it's like, if you know, buddy. You know what I mean? It's just funny. So yeah, comment Team Tasos or Team Ev if you made it this far in the video, whoever you think is going to take the dub. You got anything from your end that you want to say before we close up?
No, just thank you for the support, guys. Like I said, it is pretty awesome. For every comment we get that say we ramble too much, we get 5 that say they love the show. So that's always cool. Obviously this is a little bit different show. It's not just, hey, here are the picks and here's what you need to know. It's more, we talk. It's a sports talk show in a sense, but we also do give out picks too. So I do appreciate. I mean, last week we had almost 8,000 views, I think, which is pretty good for our second episode. So
Yep.
people seem to like it. Obviously, I love doing it, but yeah, just hope to keep the good times rolling here and hoping for another victory on my end.
Well,
Sure.
I agree with everything you said except for that part. That I hope for victory on my end. If I can have a triumphant win here after all the adversity that I'm facing, there's no stopping
This is
me.
your Jordan. This is your Jordan
This
flu
is my
game. Except
Jordan.
instead of the flu, you had bad pizza.
It's self-inflicted flu game.
Yeah.
But
That's the true story of the Jordan flu game. You didn't even
yeah,
have
the
the flu. You
pizza.
just had food
Yeah.
poisoning.
But yeah, you're right. But all right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the NBA H to H. Obviously, you can find my plays and Tassos' play on the channel as well in our normal videos. But like you said, this is a little bit different. We have a blast doing it, so we'll keep doing this, weekly on these Tuesday slates. Some will be good slates, some will be kind of mess slates. But you know what? We're at the mercy of the Tuesday slates. But yeah, that's all I got, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.